Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Wednesday morning, where I am back to bring the greatest dad, fading away slowly. It's becoming more and more that Back to the Future thing. I'm just going to be like fading away and leaving at the end. But number two is here. Yeah, Gordo, what's happening?
Don't go back in time and kiss your mom. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, actually, as much as I love that movie, it is quite disturbing when you look at the grand scheme of things, but it is what it is. Wait, is that an Elden Ring jersey shirt you got going there, John?
Oh, yeah, it's like a comic book themed one. So yeah,
Nice.
I saw this on Redbubble, so they like kind of promote artists and their designs. So I'm like, oh, this looks really cool. So I got it. Like it's like in a comic book format, like issue 1 and stuff like that. So it's great.
So we're gonna get into the Elden Ring ordeal. Cersei, Alan, as
Having
people
a
gather
conversation.
around over here. And hey, if you're just hopping on, if you're following us on Twitter, for example, do head on over to the YouTube channel and give us a follow as well. We would really appreciate it. Lots going on. Let's start talking about some of the Premier League news first. We had the panel show last night, so we did have IO. So we kind of like got who was never a big Ten Hag fan and thought like the change should have come in the off season. Now they are talking about like Amarim almost done, like 80-90% there, kind of an ordeal. But I did also find out that they're gonna promote his assistant. Obviously they can't just have the entire staff leave, so I don't know what kind of an issue that's gonna bring up when he's coming over here and they're like, here's your assistant, rude kind of a thing. Gordo, where are you at with it? I mean, I know I did put in a lot of freaking time looking into Amarim and his 3-4-3 and shit like that because he was rumored to come over. That's actually when I decided I'm not looking into shit anymore until we sign him, and then I started looking at sign or stuff once we sign them. But what do you make of it overall? Is he the man for the job?
Nobody is the man for the job because I'll tell you this. We were talking, and multiple podcasts on here were talking about how Man United came out very publicly in a leaked statement, and it felt so much like it had come internally that it did not matter what the FA Cup final was going to throw up. Ten Hag was leaving at the end of the season. And then they beat City, and then suddenly, here's a 3-year extension. And then they give him 9 games next year to turn it around. Nobody is the man until that decision-making goes away, because that's the cancer at the club. Because like just how unbelievably ridiculous that whole summer transfer is. And now they're disrupting Lisbon's season as well. So it's like, I don't know, when that decision-making goes away, then that club can get fixed. Until then, I mean, those are the guys that you're dealing with right now.
It is the confusing part to me. So, like Gallet says, and this was what everybody thought, right? They couldn't get the candidates they wanted, so they stuck with the group they knew. So I get that, and I can understand that. I mean, I don't understand it, but that's what basically happened. Is what we thought, right? They wanted these 2 guys that were out there, they couldn't get them, or they were like, "Fuck that! I'm not rooting my career over there." And whatever the case was, not only did they sign the guy, they were like, why don't we bring the rest of the Ajax team for you over here and stuff? So they did that. Now, but they went after somebody, John, and sign somebody that who was available in the summer and was literally making trips for job interviews, because virtual interviews were not cool enough for him. He was like flying around. He went like West Ham and stuff like that. So he was available. Then why the hell didn't you get him in the summer if this is the guy you want? And if it's not the guy you really, really wanted, why make the change now and not wait till like January or something like that?
It's just an extension of what Gordon is saying. It's this weird, absolutely left field decision. Not even left field, because left field would guarantee you some level of, hey, it actually might work. Like here, for the track record, post Sir Alex Ferguson, everything has been, there has been a bit of success, very minor success, but then in terms of like a level, the club that United aspires to be or is at before all this happened, it's absolutely unacceptable. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, listen, Amorim, one of the promising young managers, and like I mentioned at the start of the show, dude, like, he'd absolutely be suicidal career-wise if he wants to go to United. I just can't understand the thinking. Like, we're talking about the thinking of United behind this deal. What about Amorim? Like, I understand it's a complete step up, and having the opportunity to be the guy that turned it around is absolutely like a great thing to think about. But will you be really given the chance to think about it? If you think about it, will he be really given the chance to turn it around? Will they fully buy into whatever he's selling? Because listen, you got Jose Mourinho there, Louis van Gaal, David Moyes, like so many guys there. I'm not. Some of these guys weren't good, but some of these guys actually had a decent track record, and it didn't work out. So I don't know, man. Listen, I'm all for a long may it continue kind of deal, but looking at it, if I was a United fan, I'd probably be feeling like I'm caught in no man's land or something like that, because it's pretty much how it's been since 2013, right?
Yeah, I haven't talked to my brother yet to see where he's at with this, because he was not that big on Ten Hag. So I don't know. I think a lot of the Ten Hag out people they're like, well, whoever. I mean, they'll take like Stitch or Leo in the job, because as long as it's not Ten Hag kind of a deal. But I guess for Amorim, I can understand that, Gordo, in terms of, we say, why would anybody take this job? But there are only so many of these jobs, right? Like they always say with the NFL, there's only like 32 of them or whatever. So you gotta, when you can get it, you gotta get it, because especially like at Amorim. I mean, we were talking about it on the panel last night. If Sporting Lisbon starts the season like crap this year, right, and like they're like way behind or something like that, he's probably like not high on the list anymore. So these guys have a specific window where they shine, especially like if you're in the Portuguese league and stuff like that. And then when something like this comes up, you can't really be like, I'm not feeling it. That's kind of like a tricky situation when it's like United or Chelsea or Liverpool and stuff like that. Whereas if you're Tuchel and stuff, you'll be like, dude, no, I'm good, thanks. Because another big team is going to come right around the corner, like you already established yourself. But for Amorim, especially after what happened with the Liverpool thing, he might be like, okay, I don't know how many times I can fuck this over or getting a big opportunity, so I'm grabbing what I can.
Well, there was and I know a lot of even especially the Liverpool stuff was kind of pushed by his party more than like leaks from the Liverpool point of view. So I don't know how much to believe this, but I do know that when Pep announced that this was probably going to be his last year at City, unless somebody can convince him otherwise, he was touted to maybe replace him at City, which I think regardless of Lisbon's season this year, I think he's done enough over there. He's won two titles with them already, and so. It was the first title in 19 years. So I think he's done enough. You can have a bad year. I mean, Jurgen Klopp had a bad year as well. Managers can do that. So I think if he really does see City on the table, I don't know why this would be the move he'd want to make. I mean, it's the same town, so if you really like the town, you can get another shot at it in 9 months. So we'll see.
So this is people will take the job because the payout when you get fired is amazing. You just have to turn out the press conferences, be a lot of crap, get 15 million payout on 3 years on top. I mean, yeah, that is the deal, right? That is a great gig. I mean, basically, you just have your own built-in 401k over there. But I don't know. At the same time, especially for a young guy, John, I mean, Ten Hag will bounce back. I think he will get another job, because maybe this job has become where, I mean, yeah, he couldn't do it at United, but who can? And then it doesn't look like a blemish on your resume anymore, because it's like a black hole for most managers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't say it's too big a step, but then for the sake of his reputation, like me personally, if I was a Amorim, I know he wanted to go to Liverpool, but then as Gordo said, that might be kind of more on his part rather than Liverpool's part. There is a tier there, an in-between tier, like an Aston Villa or whatever, where I feel like he can go in the league and learn how it is, learn the landscape and stuff like that before jumping into an absolute circus show like United. Because I understand ambition, but there should be thought into that ambition, really and the sample size is there. Ten Hag, Solskjaer, Mourinho, especially, right? Van Gaal, Mourinho and Van Gaal especially were managers who know how to manage a football club, and look what happened to them. That doesn't necessarily scream hey, this is an ideal situation, which I understand, because going into a big club never really represents an ideal situation for a manager, right? But then if you come in there, like go to an Aston Villa level club, right? No disrespect to Aston Villa because they're playing really well this year, and kind of get the lay of the land and then come back to the United offer, which I understand there might not be a United offer coming in. But then, a United offer can be what? An Arsenal offer or a Manchester City offer, or maybe the United offer can still be there, but they're in a much better position now. You feel me? Like it can go both ways where he might not get the opportunity now, yeah, but then he can also get the opportunity when he's kind of, gotten the lay of the land there in the Premier League again with a so-called lesser team or something. So I don't know. I just feel like it's gonna be a waste for him, especially with the other dude from Ipswich, McKenna. If he did go to United, I feel like that's too high a jump, kind of a Graham Potter to Chelsea situation. But what the hell do I know? I just talk football here in a podcast. I have no association whatsoever. It's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, Gal says you're giving examples of guys who got funds, time, and won trophies. And they're not Chelsea. There's like a 3-year shelf life expiration date when you come in is usually about like 3 years over there. So you do get a lot of money to play with, which, that's the issue, though. I don't know if there's as much money to play with because there's a lot of people to get rid of or a lot of people to kind of bet in the system of, his 3-4-3 and all that. It's like who's going to fit, who's not going to fit. I mean, I can see some of the pieces actually fitting really well. We talked a lot about on the panel yesterday, but I can see some pieces who are not going to fit at all. And there's like some ego to every manager, right? It's like they're like, of course. I'll make it happen. It's not working because they don't have the right guy, kind of thing. So it's like like these problem players that go from like team to team because the ego of the manager says, "I'll fix him. I know what he needs," and stuff like that. So it could be one of those cases. And I guess Gordo, like he could be looking at it and be like, they're freaking 14th. So
you can't get any worse.
Yeah. I mean, they're only like 6 or 7 points off of like, a good run will get them there. And I think if you look at the schedule, it's kind of done well where, they have some after this Chelsea game. I think it's Leicester, Chelsea. Then they have like a bunch of easy games lined up like Ipswich, Everton and stuff like that. So they can really get the new manager smell, get some momentum going with some wins and all that. But in the long run, what do you think like the goal would be right now? Like top 4 almost seems too much of a dreamland because yes, you're only 6 points away, but you're also chasing teams who are obviously, there's a reason why they're in the top 4, for example. They're established, they're better squads, they have a system and stuff like that, whereas he's starting pretty much from scratch because he plays a totally different style than Ten Hag does.
Yeah, and so it's going to take some time. If he does go, it's going to take some time to get those players up to his speed. And that time is the busiest and toughest time for anyone in the Premier League, even established managers, as we go into January and end of December, middle of January. So that is a huge ask. And in that regard, I think as a manager, it might not be what's on the board. It might not be what you're talking about with the owners, but you're looking at getting a domestic cup. That's really all you can hope for. And then hope that kind of spurs some sort of form in the league and you can get away with maybe like a European place for next year. Because I think 14th, you bring a manager in that one of the toughest and most grueling times and you're trying to get a completely different system into their heads. It's going to go. It'll be more shambolic by the time we hit March.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the schedule-wise, John, he's set up like the next few Europa games they have are a lot easier as well. So it's kind of like set up like he's not going to go away to Porto, away to Istanbul and stuff like that. So he's kind of like set up in that sense. And look, when we looked into the sky for Liverpool, I was kind of, like intrigued because it felt like, he can make a lot of the pieces on our team work. I think like Gala was mentioning in the comments earlier that he has a reputation for making young players better. This was right after we were like, oh my God, so many good young players, which we sold most of them now because I guess they weren't that good to make it to the squad kind of a deal. But we do want the misery to continue. Poor Emerim. I mean, he'll just hopefully will be like another victim in the long list of crimes over there. But what do you think? What do you forecast for Manchester United's rest of the
No,
season?
Manchester City, I hope they get relegated to League 2. For Man United, it can't get any worse. You're right there, and the schedule kind of eases up a little bit. It's just perfectly set up actually for a new manager bounce. They'll get a couple of great results, saying, "Oh, we're back. Amorim's the dude," and then they face like a relatively serious team like an Arsenal or City, and they absolutely spanked it, and it's back down to earth. But like, listen, it's a situation for him where he can do something right now that it's going to elevate them to a level that, you know, it's kind of expected. Like, it's going to be better, but then long term is where I'm kind of thinking. Like, from the days of Sir Alex Ferguson, the league has gotten really hard. Like, Man United fans were conditioned then to believe, like, hey, it's our divine right to kind of win the Premier League, right? Obviously, after those years with Sir Alex Ferguson, it's understandable. But then, listen, you got guys like Aston Villa, first place in the Champions League table. Who would have thought like 10 years ago, like that would have been thinking. Unai Emery is a great manager. That's not even mentioning Ange over in Tottenham and, you know, Arsenal, us, Manchester City. You know, the league has gotten really stronger. So it's going to be a tough ask for him. Can he be the guy for the job? Absolutely, yeah. But then at the same time, they're, you know, with the media circus that's all over Man United, it's his reputation is going to be on the line if he doesn't pull through. Right, it can be possibly detrimental for future jobs as well, which is why I'm kind of more conservative here on my arguments for him. Like, I totally understand. Like, if it all goes well for him, like he can be right up there with like a Klopp or a Pep. But if it doesn't, he's gonna end up like Ten Hag, right? Like,
yeah, and
absolutely.
you know, if you're playing the odds, he's gonna end up more like Ten Hag than he's gonna end up like the other guys, just because of the structure overall. And I think, you know, it's kind of a bigger cleanup ordeal. Because of like the wages and stuff they're stuck in. And I think, you know, when you look at the guys and their wages, I don't know if it fits the system, guys. It's not even like, oh, okay, but he'll work. He won't have to get, I mean, you still have to get rid of Casemiro somehow, for example. That's not going to work in there. So there's like a bunch of players with like ridiculous wages that he has to sort. There's a lot of drama. I mean, now we'll like, you know, like he has some good players. I mean, I was saying this last night too. I mean, you look at that squad and it's not that bad, but they don't play as a team. And the irony is, I guess this is the thing, Gordo, like you watch that game. I mean, they could have been up easily 3-4-0 in the first half. There's like ridiculously clear-cut chances, famously the wide open goal that he somehow manages to miss. But there's one with Garnacho, there's one with Fernandez, like a wide open header just by himself and stuff like that. I mean, I guess our theory last night, Io's theory, which I probably have to go with this was going to happen even if they smacked West Ham 5-0 or something like that. They had a meeting about like 2-3 weeks ago. It was a monthly meeting or whatever. They came out of it. Nothing was announced. They snuck out the back door. I think we even talked about it on the morning show. And then I think that's when this decision was made. And it was just that they were like, next time he loses, which will be like in a couple of weeks over here, we'll pull the plug. Because otherwise, timing-wise, it seems odd. Because even when we talked about it, I think on Sunday, somebody was asking about it on the Discord channel. And I was like, they probably won't do anything till the international break. Whereas they did it like the next morning. And Rude, by the way, in charge for like 24 hours, they were like, hey, you're the interim coach. Hey, guess what? You're not anymore. We got a new guy.
Yeah, it's with Rude too. I don't know if you saw like when Jared Bowen puts that goal in the back of the net on the penalty, and Rude's like standing next to Ten Hag, and he just throws his hands up and turns around and leaves him, and then the bubbles start blowing past him, and his hands are in his pocket. It's the most like poetically heart-wrenching moment I've ever witnessed. We're like, he's all alone. And the bubbles are popping in his eyeballs.
In hindsight, that's like a great image to just get fired from, right? Like yeah, like kind of a final days kind of thing, final moments.
Exactly. Yeah,
go ahead.
No, it's like what Sir Z is saying is kind of like reiterating what I was saying earlier in the comments. It's just like I just really don't see how anybody can be successful at this club until it like changes from top to bottom, because it is really commercially biased. I mean, they went to the top echelons, like John said, they felt like it was their divine right to win, and instead of it became so normalized for them that they went after other things, like let's make money in other avenues. And then when the titles and stuff start drying up, it's like, well, we still got all these deals. And like I love to point it out. I know I've done this so many times, but they have like the official tractor of Manchester United. And I think that is when it all turned for them.
I can never get over that, man.
Until they go back to figuring out what's up with the team, it's gonna be a long road for anybody. Not saying that nobody can do it, but it's gonna be a huge uphill battle.
Yeah, I mean I guess they're like, who cares if we're 14th? We got a tractor.
You know. On that note, Tim, sorry to interrupt you. I was walking home one day, and past a construction site, I saw a forklift with a Liverpool sticker on it, and I got worried. I was like, "Are we getting to United territory with like the tractor thing? Does Liverpool have an official forklift now?" But apparently, it was just a big sticker. Dude's probably a Liverpool fan, but I got worried for a second there. Like it was. I didn't see the cat logo on the forklift, right? So I was like, geez.
Honestly, like people make a big stink out. Remember we had that like Hello Kitty thing and people were like losing their mind. I really don't care. I mean, if it's bringing money to the club, as long as kind of like what you're saying, Gordo, where
it stays with
you're not more worried about those deals and you kind of left the success because those eventually dry out.
Yeah, I mean, look at Spurs. I mean, totally changed their stadiums just so that they can have basically changed everything within their club so that they can have NFL games. And like to me, that was like, this team isn't working out. Like we need to bring some out. Like there's like different dressing rooms. There's like the pitch all changes, and that's lovely. But if you're not winning, like the reason the stadium is there is because there is a Premier League team.
I mean, I can say I don't care all these sponsorship deals because all they got to do it. It's part of. I mean, you got to bring money in, right? I mean, look at all the deals City has. But I mean, you got to get these commercial deals. That's fine as long as you're kind of understanding that those commercial deals are there and they're more lucrative when the team is doing better. And in most cases, yes. And I think United has kind of seen that over time. Yeah, I mean, there's still a huge fan base. There's still like a huge club that will attract money and that will attract sponsors. But what you get offered, if you're more successful, obviously is going to be like 10-15% more as opposed to just being yourself kind of a deal. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, the whole Eminem thing, I mean, Sidus says don't underestimate Eminem. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's a good manager they got, at least. Yeah. But I just don't know if it's like the same situation as when we talked about him coming to Liverpool. What he's taken over and what he has to do is a lot different now than taking over there. You're solving a lot more puzzles than just like the coach manager puzzle thing, what he was going to do here. Let's see how it pans out over there. Hopefully, long may it continue, and then it'll be the comedy. And like Vishak says, maybe he'll up the ante on Ten Hag 7-0, and you're like, anything you can do, I can do better, kind of a thing. So, okay, let's get to our boys. We'll talk about the game a little bit. There'll be the pre-match show as always before kickoff, so do tune in for that. Gally is hosting that one. I know at least Thursday, Salim. I think you're on there too, right, Gordo? For the pre-match, so once the lineup comes up, I mean, we'll do some lineup speculating, but it's really like, it darts in the dark kind of an ordeal. Let's talk a little bit about this because I think one of you guys threw this in the comments to talk about in the show. This is for the Arsenal game. What is the lesson learned over here that ratings can be all over the place? Aside from, I like the readers one because I think it shows the bias extremely well in all cases over here. It's also like players and stuff like that. And I don't know, like I'll start with you, John. Like, what do you make out of this?
It's a bunch of opinions, right? But then I would say that majority I would possibly agree on. Robertson 4.6. Yeah, I mean, I guess the first half, but he did adjust well in the second half. I think, although that was more of a tactical change, I would say, because listen, no one played well the first half, and we suddenly looked like we can play football in the second half. So I don't think it was, barring his defending for the Saka goal, I don't think he was like super duper bad as people make him out to be. But then that's just my opinion. It's a bunch of opinions. In terms of what we learned from the Arsenal game, It is what it is. Like, it's a draw against a top side, and like I mentioned before the show started, before the game happened last Sunday, I would have been content with 1 point, and I am absolutely delighted with that 1 point that we got there. I would take it, run, have a beer, enjoy the rest of my day, which is exactly what I did after that. Yeah.
I mean, that I look at this and I see that. I mean, to me, so Gold didn't watch the game. They were like, let's just go really vanilla over here. 7-7-7.
I heard Robertson was bad. 4 for Robertson, and everyone else goes 7s and 6s.
And then let's see, Mo scored, so we'll make him 8s. That's what it looks like. But then you look at, I think to me, when you look at like the readers' grades, that to me, Gordo, is where the huge biases. The foot mob thing is weird, right? Because when they pull their stats, there's almost like pluses and minuses in terms of like tackles. If you get an assist, suddenly you go up like 2. You can play like shit, but if you score a goal, football will automatically make you from 4 to 7 and stuff like that. That's how it works. But I think the most important thing is, to me at least, is like the player ratings ones. I mean, the reader ones, because you can kind of see the ridiculous bias of how they take the average almost, but like it's really high for Nunez, but it's a lot lower for like Mo, obviously a lot lower for Jones, and then somehow, Konate is obviously high, but somehow Van Dijk is lower, which I just don't get, because you can see in the foot mob he's one of the highest because he does all those intangibles, winning tackles, aerial duels, and stuff like that. But what is your take when you look at this thing?
I absolutely hate player ratings. I think it's preposterous. I think it's like someone is, I don't know. I just feel like they're wasting their time. It's like, how do you, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, you ran around and I decided that you get a 6. It's just like John said, it's all opinion based. I don't put any stock in them. I really don't. It's just, I just think it's another thing to talk about and to do, because sometimes you'll see, like, for instance, these are all, well, most of them are like out of Liverpool, right? They're like literally publications inside the city of Liverpool, and they're so wildly off. And then you start talking about, like, now we're American scouts, we're sitting over here on the other side of the pond, and our numbers would probably be drastically different than all those as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just
okay. Shits and giggles. Let's do this. Kelleher. Everybody throw their number in there.
6.
I was gonna go with a 7. I didn't say anything hugely wrong. Maybe could have done better in the first goal, especially. But
it was a well hit shot, though. It was really powerful. But then he could have come out earlier.
He could have come out earlier. Not that angle. I think he let him. I think Gali was saying it, or maybe Matish was saying it. I know somebody was saying it on Monday that maybe they would anticipate Robertson dropping the ball on that one and like getting beats a lot more. But Goro.
I only made 1 save, so I'll go 6 as well.
All right. Trent.
3.
Damn.
Why do you say 3?
I did not like his body language at all, Gordo. Like, I understand he made the killer pass, but did we expect that from Trent? Right? And I just don't like how he approached the game. He looked absolutely disinterested from the first.
Damn, I thought I was gonna even give it higher, and fucking John gave
listen, I don't know. Like, he's played so much big games for us. He knows what this is about. And he is in that prestigious leadership circle with our club, which, according to him, he's dreamed of getting. And then he shows up like this. Like, it might just be my frustration, right? Like, it might just be my frustration. But listen, it's just absolutely disheartening to see from our resident Scouser in the team, star Scouser in the team, and a dude who just came on the mic and said, "Oh, I dream of being Liverpool captain one day." Nah, buddy, nah, not with that. Like, the sad thing is, we know he has that in him, right, Tim? He has that. He has those moments where he's like, he can't be bothered defending, or he'll just make a lazy, like, long pass, trying to attempt it when he knows there's nothing going here and there. So it's like, people would say I'm hating. People would say I'm hating, but then more like, well, I love how people are just getting on me here before listening to what I have to say. But like, it's more of like, what I expect from him, the standards that he set, and his performance there is absolutely unacceptable for me.
What do you have for him over there, Gordo?
I'd probably give him a 5 because of the pass. Without that pass, we don't tie the game. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, because you never know. I guess I'm a little bit lighter on him, and it may be a bias for him, but like you never know what's going on behind the scenes. You know, you don't know what was said to him. You don't know what was. Maybe he's not in Slot's future plans, and he doesn't care, or maybe there was already something that came in. You know, because he's already battling a contract as well, so he's probably sat down multiple times, and he might not be getting what he's asked for. So like. I don't know. Maybe it's a
and
tactic.
pouting. I get that,
though?
but pouting to get your way is just fucking ridiculous to me. Sparky goes with 6. I was gonna go with 5 because 6 to me would be like you showed up, kind of did your job, you didn't stink it up, and you didn't. That body language. I mean, I already talked a lot about it, so I'm not gonna go on my rant again. But yeah, that body language kills me. I don't want a captain that's gonna walk around like that when we know what he can do, and stop like trying to kick these balls long and go for that killer pass that's gonna make a highlight and stuff like that, and play freaking slot ball that's obviously proven to work. I guess maybe that's why, but I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm not going 3, but I know why John is going 3 because it was very frustrating and annoying because at the end of the day, he should go out there and do his job regardless of what the contract. And I know what you're saying, Gordo. It's easier said than done because they're all human and stuff like that. But then don't go, if that's your mindset right about now, don't go around saying you want to be a captain. Don't go around saying,
well, yeah. I don't
fullback and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like you just don't go around saying that shit and then show up and play.
Yeah, with that attitude, I wouldn't want him as captain. But I wouldn't say that he's a 3. I definitely give him a 5 because part of the reason he's in the team is to make those passes. I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's like with everybody else, we talk about like Jota, how he disappears and then he'll pop up and score a goal, and like that's what he's out there to do, and it's frustrating to watch him for 90 minutes do that. Or on the other side of it, we got Diaz who can run around really hard and put everything on his sleeve and then not get on an assist or a goal, and sometimes that's good enough. So I don't know. It's not like I don't think he was at fault for any of the goals, but so like he defended well and he assisted. So I don't know. I think maybe it just I think it really is like about like what he said, like the stance that he's trying to take, and the fact that he is from Liverpool. I think it just hurts a little bit more. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just not as hard on him because of that as well.
Yeah, I don't want from him anymore. I think that's what he wants to do is get those balls out there. But I don't think necessarily that's what we want from him every time, for him to look up and trying to like do this. How many times did he get the ball up trying to do a diagonal that fell short? It's like, dude, stop fucking doing that when there's a guy like Mo is in front of you wide open. Like there were so many open people that you can keep possession. Yeah. And this guy is like screaming up and down saying possession. So that's like the mentality now. That's really the priority, and that's what you're doing. I don't agree that he did defend well. That's why we'll get to Konate now. To me, Konate was. I would probably do a 9. I think a 9 that Echo gave him is fair. John?
Yeah, 8 to 9, probably 8.5. Listen, it's
giving me halves over.
Okay, fine, a 9 as well. A 9 as well. Yeah, like whenever he was tested, he was there. And that's his best trait, to be fair. Like raw physical attributes, raw speed, raw strength, and whenever he was challenged on that aspect, he won. So what more can you ask for the defender, right? The problem is he was challenged so much. That was the problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then he rose to the occasion. So absolutely 9. Man of the match for me.
Goro?
Yeah, totally different game without him in there. I'd say 8.5. I might even go 9. Who knows? Let's see. It doesn't fucking matter.
Go.
Here we go. I'll give him a 3 because I didn't like the way that the jersey put on him. Like it just I don't know.
I'm gonna clip that 3 thing and watch people absolutely destroy me on social media. So
see, the funny thing is, you give that to Robertson, who I realize caused the first goal and like looked bad and stuff. Not a lot of people will get on you. I feel like, that's what, when you look at the average ratings of like, the readers, that's why I feel like, you look at this game, I don't know how, Trent is that much higher, but I think like
fair, he's
like same thing with Nunez, right? There are some more fan favorites that people are going to kind of give you more benefit of the doubt. But let's finish this off real quick. I don't want to like invest the whole thing, but I just want to see like where we're at compared to where we're at. Van Dijk.
8. Obviously bolstered by the goal, but probably 7. But then he scored the goal, so 8. I would say.
I'd say 7 because the goal pushed him in there.
Oh, really? I would go 8. I don't see any problem. Not to mention he was playing on Robertson's size. Robertson 4. I think that's fair. That was poor.
Well, and sometimes like these, and I think probably like what we were just talking about a second ago between the scores from Trent and Robertson is the fact that like this is an ongoing issue with Robertson. We have noticed that he's been a weaker player, and this was a bigger game, and it definitely showed, and it put us on the back foot almost immediately. And so like this is, I think the 4 is more of a had a bad game and has had a couple of bad games in the past.
True.
So
that's a good point.
Like Trent has had some really good games under slot, and then this one just his head just wasn't in it. So you don't give him as much of a score because I think definitely past performances deal in these.
Sparky says the defense was so busy because the midwest.
I know where he's going there.
I do agree with that. I don't think the midfield like was almost invisible, and I think it showed. I hope everybody who constantly shits on Szoboszlai, it showed what he does off the field and physically and stuff like that. But your boy Gravenberg 7 looks fair to me, so I'll do the goal thing. 7 is right.
7, but then awful first half, right? So we can't do 0.5s, right? So I'd say 7.
No 0.5. I felt like he wasn't like. I mean, out of everybody in the midfield, he was probably the best one in the first half as well.
Well, the problem is he was set. The setup really like didn't involve him in the possession aspect as well. Like Arsenal was pressing well, and the fact that he had to help Trent on that right side really didn't help him much whenever he had the ball. Right, there wasn't really many options for him, so I can see why he struggled. And different player in the second half as well.
Give me a number.
7.
7. Gordo, give me a number. Gravenberg.
We'll go 6. Sorry, there's literally I saw in the corner of my eye on my toolbox in the back. There's just a squirrel looking into my window, so I was distracted for a second.
Bring him on. Ask him what he's giving Gravenberg.
Well, when I turned around, he hopped off. So
see if he caught the game over there.
Yeah.
I mean, are you by the house where it's like Ace Ventura? Like you can just come out of the house and all these animals come out of the woods?
No, not by my house, but somebody's house.
Yeah, I mean, having been to Gordo's, it literally is like that. I can just envision Gordo coming out in the morning with a cup of coffee and just opening his arms, and all these animals come out of the woods. The ducks start running.
I like to say Snow White. Like I'm the Snow White. I'm whistling with the forest animals every morning.
McAllister. Talking about invisible. Real quick, John. McAllister, give me a number.
5.
I would agree with the 5 as well. I thought he was pretty invisible, and the early yellow card, which I did not think was a fair yellow card, but that's a different story. Gordo.
Yeah, non-existent. That was he was kind of hid behind everybody and really highlighted what everyone's saying in the comments. It was just the midfield had a really tough outing, and we were bossed all over the field, and it's why we lost possession so much because there was no outlet, and then there was no connection to the top. So, and McAllister was around that, but again, he can kind of get away with it because he's been so good for us for the past year or so.
Jones.
I would agree with their ratings. I would say 6. He was markedly improved when Szoboszlai came in. When he was moved to partner Gravenberg in that double pivot, he was.
I was gonna say, did he improve because Szoboszlai came in, or did he improve that because he
was lower?
Took a step back.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I don't either. I'm just wondering, and we're not gonna know until he plays with somebody else in front of him. But
for sure.
Yeah, and like Gally says in the comments there, when like McAllister made Gravenberch and Jones like worse in the midfield because they were having to, find themselves because he wasn't where he was supposed to be. I do think that like when he goes forward, he's a little bit of like a Nunez where it's just like chicken with his head cut off, trying to do too much. You saw him force a couple of passes, also tried to dribble when he probably shouldn't have, and turned around and done an easy pass backwards. But yeah, definitely totally changed when Szoboszlai came on.
Mo, this is an interesting one.
Mo, it's kind of like he didn't play as bad as Robertson, right? But it's kind of like a Robertson thing, like where he he tried. He was trying all game, and it finally came off towards the end, like him and Nunez combining there. But I will say his score got kind of bolstered by the goal, so I would say 7 is pretty appropriate.
Yeah, I'd probably go 7. Not his best game, but like this season, he's been feeling it. Like you can tell, like he's in like last year was like reluctant to take players on. Kind of even took some questionable shots. This year, he definitely seems like he's making much better decisions.
Yeah, I mean 7, 8 is close, man. I mean, for the first half, you can I find everybody up top immune from ratings because if you can't get the ball to them, I don't know what you want them to do. And if like they gave Diaz 5 and 6 and stuff like that, I get that he didn't. But I mean, what do you want him to do? You keep like chucking up balls in the air for him and want him to win a header from Partey, and then when he doesn't, you're gonna punish him for it. I just don't understand. Why didn't we get the ball to him on the fucking grounds where he could do anything? But no, because Trent was loving a diagonal up in the air. I got it all the way to the left-hand side. Win a header from Partey. What's wrong with you? I thought he was going to feast against Partey, but Mo, I will go with 7 as well. I can see why it would be 8, though. I wouldn't like put up a big fight up against it. Diaz, John?
Yeah, so you kind of set it up there like 6, but that 6 because he wasn't set up properly, right?
Yeah.
Like, listen, he's not going to win an aerial duel against Partey. Like, that's exactly what Partey wants. So, again, like people are going to get on me here. It felt in hindsight, I felt like Gakpo would have been a better option. Obviously, because he's more physical than Diaz, he can probably win those balls. Not as fast as Diaz, but he came in kind of too late for me. But that's no fault of Diaz. So 6.
Yeah, average. I go 6 as well. 6, Gordo.
Yeah, who knows if I doubt that was the game plan. I mean, if you put Diaz out there against Partey, I think you're probably asking the ball to be played through the channels on the floor, and it just never was for him. I think like his work rate is always good. So I'd definitely give him a 6, and like you said, mostly because he was involved incorrectly in the game. And all my Arsenal friends had texted me just saying like this lineup, like Diaz is going to have a field day on that left hand side, and he wasn't involved at all.
And like I said, like at no fault of his, we just could not. I mean, if you're Partey, you were like, "Ugh, this is gonna be a rough day. I'm gonna face fucking Diaz running at me all game." And then no, it was more like I'm gonna go up against headers with Diaz all the time. I can see Diaz maybe fouling less and try to play the ball that's going to come off of Partey instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't put any blame on him. That's fine. Nunez
for me is an 8. Been pleasantly surprised with how Nunez has played since he's come on for Jota, and not saying shameless plug, wrote about it on the website to just let the man cook, and which is kind of a message for me as well because I've been hypercritical of the guy. So first half, again, kind of like Diaz, can't really get on him too much. No service at all. Nothing was going through the midfield. But second half, when he managed to actually get some space, we could see what Darwin Nunez can do. And absolutely brilliant assist. Darwin of old would have slashed that into the side netting or whatever, right? Finding Mo there is just great. So probably an 8 for me.
I think Jamie, who was with like a Chelsea fan, was saying it like last night on the panel show, and I think he's right. It kind of worked well where I don't know if it's the other way around that goal happens, Gordo. Like if initially I thought actually he was off, but after he got the ball, it kind of worked out where the guy with the speed carried the ball and gave it to the guy who's going to have the clinical finish as opposed to like the other way around. Because some of those passes coming from Mo have not gone towards Sads. And obviously Mo is a lot more clinical than Nunez. So it kind of worked out perfectly in terms of who's playing what role over there. But what do you give Nunez?
Yeah, I'd probably give him an 8 because there was one point where it broke very quickly. He was nowhere near it, and he makes a tackle on our touchline. It goes out for a throw instead of a corner as well. So just the hustle was there, and he kept it off with a very mature decision. Because I'm with John. I think last year he would have slashed at it, and he probably would have been slipping. But yeah, I initially, I know that when you said I think he's off, everyone's like, "Oh, haha, it's Nunez." You're just saying that. I was serious too, and then I realized that it was actually Mo who was in the offside position. That's why Mo backed off of the run, and it was just one of those where like all the defenders saw Mo, they were focused on him. He backs off the play, Nunez takes it up the right, and then Mo overlaps behind him and for the pass. So I think it was something's working on the training ground. It's the communication is a little bit better over there, because I definitely think that last year he would have tried to hit it as hard as he possibly could into the side netting.
No, I give him a 7. I thought he did well. This definitely helps. But yeah, overall, I think he gets it a lot more. Like, he gets what we want to do a lot more. And that's what's, I was saying that's on the Monday night. It drives me. That's why it drives me even more nuts. That even Nunez understands what Slot wants to do, and somehow Trent does not.
Let's not go there, Tim. The show's going to reach 2 hours.
More than anything. But so obviously, we were kind of like a little all over the place as well. And John gave Trent a 3, everybody. So I'm not the hater anymore. John is the new Trent's hater. I'm giving my crown. I'm giving my crown to John.
To be fair, I bumped it up to a 4 midway, but then it's still pretty low. Yeah. It's still pretty low. It's just that, first of all, I was having a bad day on Sunday and stuff like that. So when I watched the game, I was pissed because certain people weren't happy to be there. Like, that was the one thing I was looking forward to on Sunday, us possibly getting a result against Arsenal. Then one dude decides, like, nah, I'm too good for this shit. I prefer sunny Spain, But hey,
last Wednesday we had said that if Arsenal doesn't have that injury issue, this would be a fixture we'd be more than happy getting a single point.
Oh, yeah. I'm still happy about the draw, yeah.
Kickoff happens, and it turns out they don't have an injury problem, and it was just a media run thing. And the only person, they're missing 2 from injury, but like 1 because of a red card. Yep. And we end up having, 5 injured? So we actually had the injury problem, and we went to the Emirates in a relatively still new season and took a point. So I'll take it. It wasn't a great performance. It's definitely there's always, a handful of games where you're like, we could have gotten more from that, and we just didn't. I think this is one of the games where we probably could have gotten less and didn't. So I'll take it.
Yeah, and I remember writing last 2 seasons, total of 0 points at the Emirates. So this is progress, right? 1 point. Let's go, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Gordo, like we would have taken the points, especially when we looked at this block of games. We're like 1 point over there. That's fine. We'll take that kind of a deal. But yeah, it just also felt like they were there for the taking. If we had a good performance, this was a game where you could get 3 points, a rare opportunity to be able to snatch 3 points from there. Just put them out of their misery and away from like the title chase and stuff like that. But real quick, let's get to today's game. How much of a rotation do you guys? I even forgot. I guess this speaks volumes for Kelleher, by the way. That when we were talking about injuries that we had going into the game, wasn't even counting Ellison. It's almost like forgotten where Kelleher is like such a competent replacement. That's impressive. But I do agree that he might have done better in the first goal. But I think we're always going to say this whenever like something happens. We're like, would Ali would have done better, kind of a thing. But you're comparing. Kazi always says this on Friday, and we're comparing him to one of the world's best. So it's kind of like unfair on Kelleher. But I think somebody was asking earlier if Jarosz would be maybe getting a start over here. How much of a rotation do you guys expect? Obviously, we're going to find out in like 3-4 hours over here. But Gordo, do you see Jarosz making a rare appearance, or since it's only till November, we keep going with Kelleher every day?
The man wanted time. Let's give him the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is one of the weird ones where like we play them again at the weekend. So like it feels like a chess match, right? Because you can't show your hand. Like this is one of the ones I'd rather make a big rotation, totally lose this game, and then go full force the weekend and get points where we need it and put the Carabao Cup to bed this week, like today. But with the injuries and with how it seems like Slot really doesn't like to rotate very much, it worries me that we just here's what we play with. Here's how we play. Here's a 90-minute preview for the weekend, and this one worries me a little bit because Brighton definitely have the ability to hurt you. Obviously, this weekend we saw though that if you play 90 minutes against them, you got the possibility to get unexpected points. They were up. They scored their second goal in the 81st minute and then ended up tying the game 2-2.
Yeah. So,
but it's not one to laugh at. So I'm hoping for a big rotation. I'm hoping for a lot of fresh faces.
So you are okay with throwing off EFL, basically?
Yeah, just for this, I'd rather get the 3 points at the weekend.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that the Carabao Cup is something I'd want to throw away. It'd be nice to get. I think this is a definitely achievable trophy for Slut's first year, but at the expense of, going all out and kind of showing what we got and how we play and giving them a real preview for the weekend I'm definitely against that.
How about you, John? I mean, I guess, like, I mean, there's no game I'm going to be like, it's okay if we lose. But I won't be too distraught, I guess, if we lose this one. But it really depends on the performance and stuff like that and what lineup we put out there as well. Obviously, if we don't do a lot of rotation and lose it, that's a different story than putting, like making a wholesale changes and then be like, it is what it is. But I don't know about you, John, but I think Gordo is right. I don't see Slots like doing a club where he changes everybody and fills in the blanks with kids kind of a deal. I just don't see that happening.
I think he's still at that point as well, like kind of piggybacking off what you said there about like not rotating. He's still in that process of trying to get the main guys to understand his system where it's basically going to be second nature, which is why he's not rotating. Like it's still like we're talking about how great it's been so far, but it's still early days. There are still kinks in the system, and it's not like a Klopp thing where these guys know what to do even when their eyes are closed. I don't think that's the case yet. So I understand why he's kind of it's not great from a fitness standpoint, but from a managerial standpoint of trying to make sure that, these guys, the system's absolutely drilled down to them. Yeah, I get why he's kind of sticking with it. I hope they win because I'm not expecting much rotation. And it wouldn't look good if we put like a relatively decent side out there and then we lose, right? If we're going to do it again this weekend, then I hope we win both. It is what it is, right?
I mean, I don't think Brighton comes out. I agree. I don't think Brighton comes out full strength today well. Yeah. They kind of like it's almost like we see Plan B versus Plan B. You would assume and hope that our, Team B is better than their Team B kind of thing. But you mentioned Morton by name. Yeah, Galley's really rooting for his twin to play over there. Endo and Bradley. Is Bradley finally fit? I just don't know if he's fit. Otherwise, I can see him playing, or I can see Gomez maybe out right back and Costas left and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess we're going to find out. I didn't want to throw too many darts in the dark because we really don't know. I think we're now finding out how he's going to approach this cup, right? I mean, we know the Champions League. We've kind of seen it where he does maybe 3 to 4 changes, stuff like that, Gordo. But FA Cup and League Cup and stuff, we're going to see now how he approaches them, because I can see him handling Champions League rotation different than League Cup rotation.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think, again, you don't know what his goals are for the season. I mean, he could be looking at this one of like, all right, this is my opportunity to see what else I have. We didn't make any big purchases at the summer. Let's see what my backups look like and who I want to move and who I want to keep here and who's got a future. So we could see this as more of for him, like a training with real scenario. I think the only rough thing, like I have in my banner there, is the fact that we don't play Brighton away at the weekend. It'd make a very nice long seaside trip to the, for families. So we got to come all the way back to Anfield. So
this is going to play Kwanzaa and Gomez. I do think both of them start. Endo, he already mentioned that is going to start. So that's a given.
Good.
Gakpo probably as well. I don't know. It's kind of like hard to tell from like this weekend's game and the fact that there's no Jota and Chiesa kind of. And I did not like, I know like what he said about Chiesa gave like Thiago vibes. And I was not too keen on that. Like he even was like, he's here one day, gone the other. I don't know what he was doing, kind of like a thing. And I was like, oh shit. Like, how bad is this injury when there's not even a timeline? He might be just saving Chiesa from headache and questions and stuff like that. But when the way he said, I don't know if you caught it, John, but the way he said it, he trains with us for a couple of days and then he gets injured again. That's the thing. I was like, oh shit. It's Thiago.
I feel like every squad has this designated like this sick note, right? Like I don't know about other squads, but then before Thiago we had Sturridge, right? And then before, who did we have before Sturridge, right? Like I can't forget, but then like Jesus,
Arthur Bell, yeah.
Yeah, Arthur Melo. Like he and Thiago were on the team simultaneously. Like I can't, man. It's just unfortunate. But and the longer this goes on, the longer the narrative is gonna be like, yeah, Juventus pulled a fast one on us, right? Like,
I mean, it wasn't like we spent a lot. It was maybe like a roll the dice kind of a thing. And it's probably too early. I don't know. Maybe he is saying that to. I can see him saying we don't want to give a timeline. We want to make sure he's ready. Because a week ago he was like, "Oh, like Premier League was too intense and stuff." But then when he said that, Gordo, that kind of scared me in the presser. That he's like, he's here one day, gone another. Who knows with this guy, kind of a thing.
They were already discussing like whether or not he was going to go on loan in January, which is just like.
Oh, really? There are discussions about that?
Well, there was a bunch of questions and some internal stuff going on, and then Slot kind of squashed it in the pre-match press conference. So sad. I don't think it's going on. But if he's not fit and he needs game time and he can't get in the Premier League because it's too hard for him, then maybe he does need it.
I mean, today would have been the day, right? Like that would have been the rotation. And I think a month ago when we were looking at it, I think. And I mean, even as an objective, we were talking about on the panel yesterday that the front six, the 2 tiers of 3 we have, was by far the best in the league in terms of quality. But the issue is when one of them is Chiesa, was not going to be reliable looking like so far. And then you have one injury. And, God knows Mateusz will be like, that's expected, like Jota. But, now you're down to 4, and it's not as easy to do the rotation because God knows we're not going to rest Mo as much. So he even mentioned like Van Dijk and getting him like back in action. Now, I would not be surprised if Chiesa is not going well, maybe call him back in January or something like that. But early score predictions, even a bigger dot in the dark without knowing lineups of both teams. But result. Let's go with results. What do you see coming out of this game, John?
I think it's a 1-1, goes to pens, and we win it, which is the worst possible. It goes to pens directly, right? If I'm not mistaken.
It goes to pens, yeah. There's no overtime.
Yeah, good. I mean, yeah, I think we win on penalties. It's a 1-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gordo?
I'm saying 2-1, a win.
I think that's what I had. I'll stick with it. Let's go with the 2-1. Sparky says penalty win. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If we're going to have penalties, this is probably the least stressful penalty shootout I would ever have, aside from those easy ones they do in the preseason. It wouldn't be – because I think that would be – like when I say I wouldn't be too distraught about like, getting knocked out of this cup, especially if it's on penalties, it would be even less. It would be like, meh, whatever. And then you would just move on kind of a thing. But I agree with, you guys this weekend is a lot more importance getting the 3 points out of that. But I like staying in these cups because it gives people like Endo and, like Gomez, Costas playing time. So when we do need them in the Premier League, when they come off the bench, they have already had playing time and they're up to game speed. So that's like the biggest thing that we lose, I think, when we're not able to do anything. And, Sergi says winning creates momentum. Yes, it doesn't, it gives you that we're going to win regardless of who's out there mentality. But do tune in to the pre-match. Gally will be hosting. I don't think you're there, right, John? You're so grown up now, like working and.
Oh no, dude! It's my mom's birthday. We're going.
Oh, that's fine. You're not freaking working. You just freaking.
Yeah, I'm off today.
I saw a meme and it was Oppenheimer where he like sees the bomb for the first time. He's like, and it just says when you've accidentally become an important person at work. And I just thought about John.
Oh yeah, believe me. When I said I had a bad day last Sunday, it was more of a bad weekend, and that was entirely work related. So, please forgive me for giving Trent the 3. That was more my pent up.
No, too late, buddy. I'm gonna clip that. I'm sure you won't, so I'm gonna have to go back and.
Oh no, I'll clip it. I'll take one. I'll take one for the channel.
If you clip it, I'm commenting the caveat of why you felt that way. Just to save you. I'll be the first one in there.
I'm gonna make it worse. He was 2 initially. He bumped it up to 3.
Hey, if it gets us those 50 subscribers to get us to 1K, it's absolutely worth it.
Hey, we are at 951, by the way. So
49,
do us a huge favor and help us get to this 1,000 over here. So grab a friend by the ear, have him go to the channel and subscribe on YouTube. If you're following us on Twitter right now, I mean, we have several people watching us live on Twitter right now. Head on over. give us a follow. You can come back to Twitter, but why would you do it on Twitter? Come on onto YouTube, throw in your comments, because that's one thing that you can't do on Twitter, and that's one thing we don't get is like the comments on Twitter side. So join us here. More importantly, join us for the pre-match. Right, probably like 30 to 40 minutes before kickoff, once we know the lineups and everything like that. And we'll see you guys then. Take care.
Thank you.